The sound of screeching tires pierced through the quiet afternoon, followed by the sickening thud of metal against flesh. For a moment, time froze on the busy city street. People gasped, some screamed, and a few rushed forward, their phones trembling in their hands as they dialed for help. Lying on the pavement was a woman, her hands instinctively cradling her swollen belly, her face twisted with both pain and fear. She was 8 months pregnant. Behind the wheel of the sleek black sports car stood a young man in his 20s, his hair styled immaculately, his designer watch glittering in the sun. His name was Adrian Walsh, the only son of real estate tycoon Richard Walsh. Known across the city for his arrogance and reckless lifestyle, Adrian wasn't used to being told no. He was the type of man who believed rules existed for everyone else, not for him. And now, standing before the woman he had just struck, his first words weren't an apology. "Why were you even crossing here? Do you have any idea how much this car is worth?" His voice was sharp, dripping with irritation rather than remorse. The crowd murmured in disgust. A middle-aged woman stepped forward, glaring at him. "She's pregnant, you heartless boy. Call an ambulance." But Adrian scoffed, checking his phone instead. "Relax, I'll handle it. I'll pay for her hospital bills. This doesn't need to turn into some drama." As paramedics arrived and carefully lifted the woman onto a stretcher, Adrian muttered under his breath, "What a waste of my time." The injured woman's name was Emily Carter. She was kind, gentle, and loved by many in her neighborhood. Her husband, Daniel Carter, was known as a hardworking man, someone who carried himself with quiet dignity. Daniel wasn't wealthy, but he worked 2 jobs to provide for his growing family. What Adrian didn't know was that Daniel's past carried a story that would soon shatter his arrogance. When Daniel rushed into the hospital, his heart sank at the sight of Emily lying pale on the bed, machines beeping around her. He held her hand tightly, whispering, "I'm here, love. You and the baby are going to be okay." His eyes were filled with worry, but behind them burned a calm strength that no tragedy could erase. Emily survived the accident, though the doctors said the impact had caused complications. She needed rest, constant monitoring, and there was a risk to both her and the baby. Daniel swallowed the pain, choosing to stay strong for her. But when he learned that Adrian Walsh had walked away without even a word of apology, rage brewed inside him. The next morning, Daniel decided to confront Adrian. He didn't storm into the Walsh mansion shouting threats. Instead, he appeared calm, almost too calm. He requested a meeting with Richard Walsh, the millionaire father. Richard, embarrassed by his son's actions making headlines, agreed. Adrian lounged in the massive living room, sipping an expensive drink when Daniel entered. He smirked. "So, you're the husband. Look, man, I didn't mean to hit her. Things happen. I'll pay you some money and we can all move on." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You think this is about money?" His voice was steady, but his words cut sharp. "You nearly killed my wife and my unborn child, and you stand here acting like it's nothing." Adrian rolled his eyes. "What do you want then? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry, happy." Daniel stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "Do you even know who I am?" Adrian laughed. "Why should I? You're just some working-class guy. My father could buy and sell 10 of you." But Richard, who had been silent until then, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Daniel Carter, that name sounds familiar." Daniel's lips curled into the faintest of smiles. "It should. 15 years ago, I was the lead prosecutor in the fraud case against your company, Mr. Walsh. I could have destroyed you then. I had enough evidence to put you behind bars for a long time." The room fell silent. Adrian's smirk vanished. Richard's face drained of color. Daniel continued, his voice calm but heavy with weight. "But I didn't. I gave you a chance. I believed people can change, that redemption is worth more than revenge. And you rebuilt your empire. I never once asked for anything in return. But today, your son showed me the arrogance and cruelty that money breeds when it isn't guided by humility." Adrian stood frozen, his arrogance cracking for the first time. He stammered, you could've, why didn't you? Daniel's eyes burned into him. Because I knew what it meant to fall and still have someone believe in you. But you almost took away the two people I love most in this world, and you stand here acting as if it's just another inconvenience. For the first time in his life, Adrian couldn't find words. He had always lived under the shield of his father's wealth, untouchable, unaccountable. But here was a man who held power not through money, but through principles. Richard broke the silence, his voice heavy. Adrian, do you understand what you've done? Not just to Emily, not just to Daniel, but to yourself. Adrian swallowed hard. His chest tightened not from pride but from shame, an emotion he had never truly felt. Over the next few weeks, Adrian found himself restless. The image of Emily clutching her belly haunted him at night. The quiet strength in Daniel's eyes echoed in his mind. For the first time, he realized money couldn't erase guilt. One afternoon, he made his way to the hospital unannounced. When he entered Emily's room, she looked at him with wary eyes. Daniel stood protectively by her side. Adrian's voice trembled as he spoke. I came to say I'm sorry. Not the fake sorry I gave before. I mean it this time. I was reckless. I was cruel. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need to try. Daniel studied him, trying to see if this was another act. But Adrian's shoulders sagged, his eyes glassy. For the first time, he looked less like the arrogant millionaire's son and more like a lost boy who had finally seen his reflection. Emily spoke softly, her hand on her belly. The baby's still fighting, and so am I. If you really mean what you say, prove it. Change. Don't let your life be wasted on pride and arrogance. Her words struck Adrian deeper than any lecture. He nodded, tears he didn't expect streaming down his face. From that day, Adrian's life took a different turn. He volunteered at rehabilitation centers, met accident survivors, and donated not just money but time, listening, learning, humbling himself. Slowly, people saw change in him. He no longer flaunted his father's wealth but began building his own path, one rooted in responsibility. Months later, when Emily safely delivered a healthy baby boy, Adrian was there in the waiting room. He wasn't family, but Daniel had allowed him to wait, to share in that fragile, beautiful moment. When the nurse brought the baby out, Adrian's breath caught. New life, innocent life, a reminder of what he could have destroyed. Daniel approached him, holding the tiny bundle. His name is Michael. He looked Adrian straight in the eye. Remember this moment. Remember what almost slipped away because of your arrogance, and never go back to who you were. Adrian nodded, his voice breaking. I won't, I promise. The story spread beyond the city, not of a spoiled millionaire's son, but of a man who learned humility through tragedy. People spoke of Daniel Carter, the man who chose mercy over vengeance, and Emily, the woman whose gentle forgiveness inspired transformation. In the end, the accident became not just a scar, but a turning point. It showed that redemption is possible, that even the most arrogant heart can be softened by truth, love, and the courage of ordinary people who refuse to be broken. And Adrian, once frozen by the weight of his own pride, finally began to live, not as the millionaire's son, but as a man who had learned the value of life.